Hey, good morning, guys, and good evening over there in the other locations. Thank you, everyone, for joining this performance engineering session one from Isha Training Solutions. Um, uh, quick round of introduction from me. I know there are 10 plus people in the call, so we'll not spend much of time in the introduction from everyone. I'm Prem. I have close to 14 years of experience. Um, are you able to hear me? Can you all please go in mute, please? Yeah, thank you. If you want to communicate something, probably you can unmute or you can probably put it in the chat as well. Okay, so I'm Prem. I have 14 plus of years of experience in IT. I started as a mainframe developer, and then I moved on to performance testing, performance engineering, performance um, manager, and last couple of years, luckily, I could take an opportunity as an product development in developing a couple of products for my own company as a solution architect. So I have worked both at offshore as well as in US on site for a couple of years, working across a couple of big e-commerce customers, banking customers. So that's a very short and quick introduction about me. So today, what I'm planning to um, provide in the session is very quick introduction about what is expected as a performance engineer. Say when they are going to work for a project, what a project when they are going to open up a role for a performance engineer, what would be their expectation? Whenever they're going to go for an probably an interview, whether internally in our organization or even externally, what is it they are expecting, and what from PT to P, from performance testing to performance engineering, right? So how this transformation can happen. Okay. So that part we will cover it today, and then I'm going to spend a good amount of time in providing a preview of all the sessions that is going to happen over the next couple of weeks. So I will take time and give you the preview of each and every session, what is going to happen, what we are going to cover, what kind of practical knowledge that I'm going to share. Uh, so all these things I will go over in the next 1 hour. I could see Lalit just entered the meeting. Lalit, we just started the meeting and I just gave the introduction. You can probably look into the recorded session later. So we'll just continue with that, right? So as I mentioned, our agenda is to get a quick overview on what is the expectation from the project teams on the role of performance engineering, and where are we as a performance tester is going to get started, and then the preview of all the upcoming sessions that is I'm going to give it over the last 1 hour. Okay, so as a performance engineer, right, the expectations are the actual expectations are going to be really big. When we look into the traditional uh, IT world, when I say traditional, the days before DevOps or cloud, and now with DevOps and cloud, uh, obviously the expectations are going to be more. But in general, right, the performance engineering or the optimization is going to be the combination of these aspects, right? The expectation is to have the person who is going to be a performance engineer. It is always going to be good if he's going to be a very good experienced performance tester, so that he knows about the performance concepts, about the various testing tools, various basic concepts about the scalability, availability, and performance. So that is one good aspect. I hope most of you would be there very much on top of the performance testing, right? So one thing is already covered. The other parts are the system analysis. When we say system analysis, it's a very high level. So it is going to cover a lot of things. But basic things is analysis, right? Analysis and then your troubleshooting skills. So it could be your app servers or DB servers, or it could be your JVM, or it could be your APIs, middleware. So analyzing the system to monitor, debug, troubleshoot, identify problems. So identifying problem is fun, and that skill set is going to be very important as a performance engineer. And the networking and then administration, I would say maybe 10-15% is still good to get started with that. Because obviously now with the cloud and your data center, there are going to be a lot of latencies, a lot of network hops are going to be there in an hybrid architecture. So definitely the networking concepts are going to be really important for us to troubleshoot the problems. And then the programming language. Again, the programming language, basic understanding of any of the programming language is very important. Again, I think expectation is not to be an out and out a developer or a person who can do the coding. It is more about knowing the basics of programs, right? Which is going to be really important, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide as well, right? So combination of all these things, right? The person has to review the architecture, so which means he has to get a hold of the various components in an application. The engineer has to be able to create strategies. He should be able to configure right tools for the right components. You should be able to use the tools like your JProfiler or Visual VM to monitor and troubleshoot the memory or thread problems. Experience in database analysis. We should be very good in doing the client-side performance analysis. So all these things are expected, but again, most of us, say when we are going to be in a performance testing background, getting into all these things, it is not going to happen at day one or month one or year one. It's a journey, right? So let me spend 2 more minutes in this slide, and then I'll come to the performance testing to performance engineering, the transition. So just give a again idea is to give you at a high level, set the context for performance engineering, right? So that is the expectation from the market. That is the expectation from the project team. What a performance engineer should be able to do. But how exactly it is going to fit into a software development lifecycle, right? We all know in a software development lifecycle there are going to be requirement, design, development, test, production. So though it is going to be agile or it is going to be a traditional waterfall, pretty much still it is going to follow this kind of an life cycle. So as a performance engineer, right? It is so as a performance tester, we mostly get into doing a testing phase, or probably some of you would have got into early with shift left or early performance testing. Probably we might also done good amount of testing during development as well, but predominantly at the testing phase. But as a performance engineer, how can we play a role, or what is even the expectation from real product companies, right? How are we going to fit into the SDLC cycle, and what are the various activities we are going to do it? So first is requirement, right? During a requirement phase, the business team is going to list down the features of the product. Who are the end users? How are they going to use it? What are the features they are expecting for their business to operate? So that time, it's very important to either talk to the same business owners or product owners, or the application, a similar application method is already in production. So as an performance engineer or as a performance architect, your role would be to talk to those team, define the NFRs, the top features which is going to get designed. What are those? Can you please go on mute? Over is not in mute. Can you please go in mute?
Hi, Prem, you can mute from your end. You can mute all of those from your end.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, fine. So I was talking about during the requirement stage, what is the role of the performance engineer? Right? It's very important to define that at the initial level so that we don't end up with the surprises from the business owners saying the expectation was different, the end users are different. So that is very important for us to go and look back into the couple of available statistics in production or talk to business team to define the non-functional requirements. Second is the design phase when the product architects are going to design the system to develop a particular feature. They might bring in a couple of messaging systems. It could be Java in the front or probably Node server in the front, SQL database. So they might be designing their system from a feature perspective to develop a particular feature. So during that time, again, our role would be to map the non-functional requirements to the design that is going to done for the particular features. It is very important that see for SLA of 3 seconds or 5 seconds, if the design is going to have multiple components, it is going to depend upon the third-party services, API services. Either we have to discuss with the architect team, we have to discuss with the business team to see which one we compromise. Obviously, the business requirements are going to be on top priority. Right? So we as a performance engineer, it's very important to match these two things. Look into the design, look into the architecture, find out the components, how it is expected to behave, what are the expected latency, if it is going to be again a hybrid kind of an architecture, how this is going to impact, how it is going to impact our NFR numbers. So that is the kind of role we will play during a design phase. And so see, the first two things are very important for even you to move to a development. From a development, it is all about you going to identify a problem, you're going to provide recommendation. But if there is going to be a design flaw, it is going to be very, very difficult to go and change it, fix it at that point of time. So though it might look little hard, or in most of the time we might not get a chance to get into the project at the requirement and design phase. But the ideal world, that is the expectation, and that is something really, really required. Okay. And when it comes to development phase, yeah, the code is ready. You as a performance engineer will do a couple of activities like code profiling, your memory leak analysis, uh, front-end analysis. There are a lot of tools available for that as well, which we will see along the sessions. And then during the testing phase, during the testing phase, when you're going to do actual load testing, endurance testing, you're going to face a lot of problems related to response time or crashes. Right? So you will be involved in monitoring your server components, taking the required dumps to analyze the threads and eat the garbage collection analysis. So all these things you'll be doing as part of the testing phase. And then you also, as a performance engineer, have a role to play in production to set up proper synthetic monitoring. So you know about your components, you know about your critical functionalities, you know the NFR. So setting up the proper synthetic monitoring and real user monitoring is also very, very important so that you be able to get right metric from the production for you to redefine your workloads or NFRs, or even to get proper alerts and reports from the production. So that is how the performance engineer role is going to span across the SDLC cycle. Okay, so um, these are the context I want to set you with you all, right? From a performance engineer, as a performance engineer, this is how we are going to play a role across an SDLC cycle. And what are those expectations when you wanted to get into a role of performance engineer within your internal organization, or when you're going to probably attend an interview for any external projects or external organization. Okay. Having said that, we talked about a lot of things, right? I think the expectations are going to be very huge. But see, if I'm assuming that most of us are performance testers in the call, where are we going to start? It is not going to be immediate transition or transformation from a testing to engineering, and that definitely cannot happen even if you're going to work in a project. Get an opportunity to do any of these activities, what I was mentioned. Getting into a performance engineer is a journey. It's going to take its own time. But with my experience, right, what I understood is even when I was a performance tester, getting into a performance engineer, we always have a lot of myths, right? Again, even the confidence level in which we are going to talk to the developers or architects. Normally, even with the performance testing results, we find difficult to go and talk to the architects or developers to convince them. They're always going to come back and say, our numbers are not correct. Whenever we are going to pinpoint, saying there's a deviation in the response time, or there are too many exceptions or errors, they're always going to pinpoint our scripts or test data or environment. So we always go to struggle in convincing them or making them understand the real problems. Now, when we are going to say your application is having a memory problem, or is having a particular method is causing high response time, or your DB queries are not properly optimized. So when we are going to go into that level, we always will find a problem more in terms of confidently conveying it. So that is a with my experience, that is always going to be initial roadblock, right? Whether if I'm going to talk to the team, what kind of questions that will come out? Am I really good enough to go and talk to them? What if I'm going to do something wrong and it is going to taken in a different way? So that's the initial roadblock that is going to be there for any of our performance tester. So the bottom line is we are not going to get expert in all these areas immediately, but we have to get started for sure, right? Get the basics, get a confidence about what we speak in terms of monitoring, in terms of profiling, in terms of configuration. When I go and talk to an architect, I should be pretty much confident on my whatever terminology I'm going to use it, whatever message I want to convey. Okay? So that is the barrier we need to break, and it is quite easy to do it as well, right? Which I did it myself a couple of years back. We have to get started. Okay, so the entire session, all the sessions, all the topics, whichever I'm going to cover it, it is designed in such a way that most of these things will be taken care. The whatever expectations that are listed out in the slide 1, right? So all these things for you to get confident about talking about all these areas as a performance engineer, you would be to do it once you complete these batch, and once you have an answer on all these topics, definitely you'll be able to do it. Okay, and again. When you, unless otherwise you're going to get into a real project, you're not going to get a feel of it, right? The other problem what we see is most of the organization will not get a role, or will not get a opportunity to do all these things. Will not even get a access to the server to get logs. Will not even get access to monitor and get those metrics. We have to rely upon the ops team or infra team to give us an CSV file or a log file for us to go and look into it. Okay, so my solution for that is and it worked out as well for even for me and a couple of my other people in my previous batches as well, right? You get your hands on at your home. Don't wait for the opportunities to come at office. You set your own missions. You set your own development environment. You have to think as a developer to get started. If at all, I'm still assuming that most of you would be as a performance tester trying to get into a performance engineering role. So you have to think yourself as a developer, right? No more as a tester, which means you have to get a basics about your programming language, your get hands-on on all the tools that are required to do the performance engineering role. So that is how you're going to be a performance engineer rather than getting a theoretical knowledge and then waiting for opportunity is not going to work out. And even for me, when I took a performance engineering role, I mean, it's not that easy, right? It is going to be competitive environment, both at the of your current organization or outside. So in today's world with cloud and Amazon missions, you'll be able to get access to all the tools, infra, and there are a lot of open source projects available in GitHub where you can easily get yourself used to all these things. I'll also help you through this session how to do this. Yeah, so the session two, the next session, right? Again, I am not going to go deep into the performance engineering before setting you for a basics. When I say basics, the minimum knowledge or concept that is required for you to go ahead, right? The more about Java basics, the JVM architecture. You need to understand what a profiler is going to do. You need to get used to heap, stack, memory, threads. So all these basic concepts, setting up your server or setting up your machine for development environment, right? Installing the JDK, setting up the environmental variables, creating programs. So you should have a environment in your hand, which would be a prototype of a server environment, right? So you now as a developer can open Eclipse, create programs, compile it, run it, deploy it in a Tomcat, and introduce problem, profile it, debug it, fix it. So not in a massive way, but at least in a very subset of that, right? So which means you be confident about the what you want to talk. You want to talk about heap, you want to talk about stack, you want to talk about thread. What is that? Do you really have seen it? So setting up this basic is going to really help you to get a feel of that, get comfortable in all these terms, get comfortable with this environment, right? So session two is going to be more about helping you to have this kind of an environment, knowing about the basics. That's what I'll be planning to do. And again, this is almost all the sessions would be pretty much theoretical plus 50% of me doing practical exercises, creating problems, debugging it using tools, and then fixing it. So that kind of an sessions are what designed for the almost entire program. Okay, so session two is more about you making yourself comfortable with the development environment, understanding the basics about the Java JVMs. Session three, from session three onwards, what we'll do is, as I told in the beginning, we will go with the SDLC architecture, right? The first part of the NFRs and the design review, we will keep it at the last. The main reason is once you know about all the basics of problems, issues, how to solve it, then you would be able to do the NFR gathering or do the design review properly. So let's not get into theoretical part at the start. Let's get our hand into the code, get our hand into the tools. So the sessions are going to be like yeah, new application is getting developed. You as an engineer is going to get involved early at the development stage. What all you're going to do it? What all issues you're going to face it? There are going to be a lot of problems that you're going to get from an application perspective, right at the single user level, right at the code level, and then going into testing when a load testing is going on. So we'll go through one by one. The session 3 would be mainly the problem which we face is a response time problem, even without a load testing. Right? So how are we going to analyze the response time for your application, and how are we going to use the tools to debug it? Right. So what I'll do is I'll probably do a quick preview on how it is going to look like, right? For you to understand how exactly this practical session is going to be for you. Let me go to the yeah. I have a I'll use some e-library application with which I would be creating performance issues, and I'll be debugging it using the tools like JProfilers or Visual VMs. I'll do what I'll do is I'll go and deploy a WAR file. Okay, and I'll go and start the Tomcat. So it should get started in a minute. It's deploying the archive. Okay, it started. So I'll go and open the okay, so this is my e-library application. I'll try to log into this. So again, the assumption here is you as a performance engineer getting involved into the early in the life cycle, and there's an application developed at least a minimal feature, and you started involving in finding out the problem at the very beginning level, even before we write load runner scripts or JMeter scripts, get into load testing. That's going to happen way after in the life cycle, right? And, normally, we don't do a load testing earlier in most of the cases. So in this case, so I just got a URL from the developer, and I'm just logging in, and I see the page is getting loaded. Um, it is taking time, so that is a typical issue what we are going to face at the beginning of the new application, right? Not lot of applications at the beginning is going to behave in similarly. So you as a performance engineer, how are you going to debug? How are you going to find problems? How are you going to provide recommendation? And then post fix, how are you going to verify it? Okay, so this is a problem, right? Where it is whether it is going to be a problem at the client side, or it is a problem with the network, or it is a problem with the server side. That is how your troubleshooting is going to start, right? Because this response time could be because of your local machine having a bandwidth problem, or it could be some client side JavaScript, or it could be a server side issue, right? So we'll talk about how are we going to troubleshoot the problem. But what I want to show is use one of the profiler, Java profiler, to debug the problem, right? So what I'll do is I'll open the JProfiler. So there are a couple of tools which we are going to use it throughout the session, right? There are a lot of tools that comes along with the Java itself. JProfiler is there, the JVisual VM is there, JConsole is there, your Java Mission Control is there. JProfiler is one of the commercial tool which is available for the your free trials, right? So what I'll do is I'll open the JProfiler, okay, and then I will attach this with the process ID. We'll go through in detail about how to find the process ID, what are the various, how to configure the JProfilers, but more from the preview. Um, so we have a problem, right? We have a problem of the response time. Let's go into the JProfiler. Still just trying to get connected to the JVM. Okay, sampling. Okay. Okay. So in this, I'm coming here. My intention is to identify problems, right? Still, I haven't got the my page. So what I will be able to do is there is something called CPU use, and it is going to record the CPU data, and then it will also help us me in identifying the hotspots or the all hotspots within my code. Okay. So still it is loading. Okay. Still it is loading. I will open all states. Okay, if you see here, right, this is how we'll get started. When we come to the call tree, the still it just got loaded, right? The response just got loaded. It took maybe what 20 seconds. So I'll come to the Java profiler. I will go to the call tree and I'll look into the calls, how the call has happened, right? From the your Tomcat, it went into something called admit login dot do post. I believe it could be a admin login could be a but maybe a class file, and do post would be a method. That is how the naming convention works, right? Class file followed by the method, and there is something called external call send get. Okay, so out of these 100% rate, it shows 18.6%. Close to 13 seconds is spent within this admin login, and then with this admin login there is an external call that is happening, right? Which took 12 seconds. So which means there's a problem with my particular external call where it is trying to get a response, right? um, there could be many reasons why this external calls might getting slower. Maybe because of the network, or it could be because of the third party responding slowly because of its own performance. But okay, so the way the session is going to happen for this response time analysis is we are going to I have already created a problem because of which my admin login is delayed, and as a performance engineer I'm seeing a problem, and I come to JProfiler, and how I'm going to use a JProfiler to find out the class, or the method, or the corresponding method calls. And with this, I would be able to go back to the my developer, and provide recommendation saying there's a huge amount of time is taken for a particular external call dot send get. Okay, that is how I'm going to use the JProfiler to troubleshoot my problem. Okay, it's a very simple preview example which I wanted to give it to you, right? Will pass it on here for the this particular response time problem. Okay, similarly, our next thing would be on so for the response time analysis, as I said, we'll be using JProfiler, JVisual VM. I'll be using Eclipse project and a war file deployed into Tomcat to find out the problem, debug it, and then fix it. Fourth is next session would be on the memory, right? Again, memory is a huge topic. Memory is a memory problems are something very quite common for us to, when even when during a performance testing we would have seen a lot of out of memory exceptions, or during endurance tests the memory growth is happening rapidly. After 3 hours, 5 hours, the server getting crashed, right? So we would have heard about the leaks, memory leak occurring in Java, taking the heap dump to understand the objects that are not properly handled, right? So all these general basics about memory, how it is handled by JVM, what are the leaks, how are we going to use the tools like Visual VM and JProfiler to identify the leaks, how we are going to fix it. So again, combination of theory, tool plus practical sessions, right? That's how we are going to do it. Again, let me do a quick preview on what we are going to see. I'll go back to the my JProfiler. Okay, so I'll run a jar file which is having a memory problem. Going here. Okay, so I started a jar file, which is again a Java program, which is going to get executed, right? Let me open the JProfiler. Okay, there is something called a new PID has come for my memory issue.jar. I'll open it. Close my Tomcat so that it is not consuming memory. So it is connected to the memory issue.jar. I'll again try to attach it, validate memory issue.jar. Yes, sampling. Okay. So I'll go into my overview tab and memory is so far flat. So some operation is going on with my Java program. At some point of time, it is increased, say from 5 MB, it now went up to 340 MB, right? So it is growing. Okay, you could see here. So let it run for a couple of seconds. So normally what happens is, say for example, when I'm going to run a garbage collection, right? What will happen is the used heap will come down to a certain level for sure. Okay, and if it is not going to come down, then we can suspect a leak. We'll get into the concept of what is heap, what is leak, all these things in detail. But I want to give a preview on what happens when there's a problem with the memory in my program. How am I going to monitor it? How am I going to profile it using the tool? And how am I going to debug it? Now, when I run a GC, it came down a bit, but not much, right? With this, I could see there could be obvious results where your jar file could throw out of memory exception if it is very too bad. If it is a small leaks, you would still be able to find out by running a GC and looking into the recovery. You'll be able to at least observe or decide there are going to be leaks, right? So once you know there are going to be leaks using the JProfiler tool, and you'll be able to go to the I think it got stopped. Let me again rerun it, or rather think with the time what we have, right? So this is what we are going to see from the JProfiler. From the memory aspect, we are going to create Java programs which is going to have memory leaks, and we as a performance engineer, as a black box, we are going to run this application. We are going to run these jar files, and using JProfiler, we are going to come here. We are going to let me anyway do again start this and also show how are you going to take the heap dump here. I'll attach it again. So again, there's a new PID came here. Okay. How are you going to look into the objects which are leaking? What are the major collection that is happening? How the GC activity is happening? And how are we going to identify the class file? How are we going to identify the particular strings or arrays or objects which are not properly handled by the programmer? Okay, that is our intention, right? Our intention is to suspect the leaks. If you suspect the leak, then get into details about identifying the which class or which objects the problem is coming, or the root cause of the problem. So those things we will do it using the both with the JProfiler as well as with the JVisual VM kind of a tool. There's a question from Anil Chaudhary. Yeah, Anil.
Hi, very good morning. Two questions I have. So, first thing is like JProfile we're going to use for the app server entries, right?
for any service where you have a piece of Java code that is running, and whichever service you want to profile. Correct.
Okay. And what tools we are going to use for the analysis of web server?
See, when it comes to your profiling, right? Say there is going to be a server, and your application Java is going to run inside your JVM, right? So what we're going to profile here is the JVM to find out the leaks in your Java program. So your Java program is going to compile, and it is going to get executed in a JVM. And in JVM, there all your memory is going to get created, retained, destroyed. So to understand the heap behavior, we are going to access the JVM. To access the JVM, the tools are going to be your JVisual VMs. You're going to use JProfilers, and there are modern tools available like Dynatrace, AppDynamics, which can also do the pretty same job.
Okay, so it means that wherever, like, irrespective of the server, wherever Java basically is actually you are using, we can use JProfiler, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason is, see, the Java, the JDK itself is going to have set of tools. Wherever you're going to go and deploy your Java application, it would require a JRE, a set of JDK tools, right? And there you will have JVisual VM, you will have JConsoles, you will have Java Machine Control, which will come along with the SDK, which you can use it. You would still need a remote access to those port for you to do the profiling, because you are going to be in a remote place, and your servers are going to be in different place, and you're going to connect remotely. Um, but still you would be using the JProfiler or other tools to connect to your application server to do the same activity. Only difference is you would be doing remotely. I'm doing it in my own system.
Okay, sir, just last question. So
Sure,
right
sure.
now you are doing the analysis based on the memory of your memory. So this analysis you're doing for which server? If I want to understand if it is from web server or app server, then what will be your answer?
Okay, so currently I have deployed a Java application into my Tomcat. Okay, and I'm running it. But when you see my profiling rate, it is up to a process ID. So all the process ID that is going to run in a server, first we need to get the process ID of your application, which you're going to profile. Once you get the process ID, then you will be able to attach those process ID to a profiling tool, whichever profiling tool. Right. So even if it is going to be it's going to be Tomcat, or it is going to be WebSphere or JBoss, inside that you will deploy this your application. It could be a jar or it could be a bar, and underneath it, it is going to be set of your Java programs, which is going to run in a JVM. So the profiling part, or the understanding how the memory is handled, it is within the JVM, and that is what we are trying to analyze it. To answer
Okay,
your question, I'm using a Tomcat deployed with the Java application.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Okay, so the memory leak and garbage collection go hand in hand, right? The leaks comes because GC couldn't able to remove those unused objects. We don't need to worry about all these terms in the terminology, right? Like your leaks, the references, objects. Let's get comfortable with all these things in the upcoming session before even we go into this level. But again, the idea is to give you what you're going to expect out of these sessions, so that you will get confidence about the next sessions. So the session 4, session 5 will be on the memory leak, taking the them, analyzing it with the real-time application, real-time problems, and then debugging it, finding a problem, and then we'll also go and fix those problems, and rerun it. Okay. Next would be on threats and threat dump analysis. Again, when we talk into performance issue, right? That is always going to be performance issue,
Prem, one
memory
quick
issue.
question.
Yeah,
So
please.
are you gonna share all code snippets with us using some file share?
I can do it for sure. Yeah, the WAR files, the code which is there for creating all this problem, we can share it using any of the commonly available forums through GitHub, or it could be through some drives. Definitely, yes.
And when we do, or when you are doing, are we gonna do along, or are we gonna only watch that? So that is my question. That we will do our hands-on on our lappies as well, or we will only watch you doing it.
It is going to be mostly I'll be doing it, you'll be watching it. But I can also do what I can do is I can send you across these things probably tomorrow, right? So we will have a weekend for you to set up your environment. Tomorrow, anyway, the session will be on setting up the environment, setting up your development environment, right? Once that is done, I can send across these WAR files and code snippets. For the weekend, if you have all these tools and setup done, you would be able to even do it alone. But the problem is within the 1.5 hour session, if you have a problem with setting up a tool or configuring it, you will not be able to troubleshoot and fix it. But definitely you will be able to do it along with me. If you take an extra effort to do that, I think that would be excellent. But
Okay.
yes, I can provide you that. We have a buffer of this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, right? Where you can go install all these tools. I can probably share you the list of tools and where you can download it, and also I can provide you this WAR and code snippets. Yeah, to make you do it along with the codes. Does it answer your question?
Yes, Prem. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move on, right? So threat and threat up analysis is another very important aspect as a performance engineer. We are going to see, especially during the load testing, right? Or still till now, what we have seen so far is your response time analysis, memory leaks at a unit level, at a program level. When we do a load testing, we end up seeing response time problem, right? Multiple logins, multiple people concurrently log in, you're going to see the problem with the response time increasing. It might be because of some configuration at the web server level, or it could be problem deep rooted into a code level as well. If there is going to be a problem at the code level, how are we going to find a problem? How are we going to go and fix it? So that is how we are going to look into when we talk about the thread and thread depth analysis. I wanted to show you a small a problem which is having a thread. Let me do it quickly. Right. So let me open my Eclipse. This is my project. Let me run this. Okay. I'll also open another tool so that you can take a look of the Visual VM as well. I'll go here. I'll open the Visual VM. So Visual VM again, it comes along with your development kit, which you can use it to again get an insight on what is going on inside your JVM. Okay. Okay. I'll close the JProfiler. Okay. Now I'll go and run this Eclipse program. Okay. So this project has a performance issue, especially the thread issue. So it is going to run dynamically, deploying it to a Tomcat server. Okay, it has started. So let me go to the other port. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to open a two sessions. One, I'll duplicate this. Okay, and then I'm going to enter this. Okay, I'm going to do a login here. I'm going to do a login here. Okay. And the first session has come. Second is still loading. Okay. Let me go to the Tomcat bit. So what I'm seeing is I could see the first is loaded, and second, in fact, first is still loading, and second is still trying to get loaded, right? So that is obviously some kind of a response time problem that is happening with the your application. Second is not even getting the initial HTML, right? So when I go to look into the Visual VM or JProfiler, right? What I will now look into is, first thing I'll go and check my call tree analysis, what we saw earlier, to see if there is any particular method is taking a time. Like what we saw earlier is there's an external call taking time. And then if one of my pages come and second page is taking time, so which means a concurrency issue, right? It is not a actual concurrency issue is when we are going to do a 20 user test or 100 user test. As you increase your users, you will see response time degradation. That is mainly because of the concurrency problem, right? Either server couldn't able to handle the load because of the available threads, or there is a problem with the code because of that it is making the threads too wait. For that, the way I'm going to analyze it, I'll go to something called threads, okay, and then I'll redo it again, okay. Let me show a concept of how the what are the different thread status. How are you going to monitor it? I'll go back quickly. And then admin. Okay, so I'm doing it. Now, if you see, there's a two thread started. A thread with execution 4, thread with execution 5. Execution 5, if you see, there's something called light green called monitor. Monitor is nothing but a log status. It is monitoring another thread for it to get into action. So that is not a good state. We should not see threads in a monitor stage. It is like a kind of a logged status, right? It is waiting for another thread to release so that it can do the processing. So which means there's a problem with the login code where one of the particular method or particular piece of code is getting logged for a particular thread. Now, if you see, the execution -4 is now turning into park mode, which means it is releasing the log, and now my execution 5 is moving into a sleeping mode. Okay, so now if you go and look into it, right, you would have got these screens. So okay, this is again a preview of how we are going to troubleshoot the thread problems, right? Typically, you're going to run a load test. You're going to have a lot of server users going to get started, and when you see slowness, this is one of the way you would be able to go into the Visual VM, pick your particular process ID, and then go into the different threads and see if there are going to be a thread with a log. And again, from here, you'll be able to take a thread dump, and ideally we'll take 3 or 4 or 5 thread dump to monitor the various thread that are created by your application. So we'll go through how to analyze these thread dumps. There are tools available, and you yourself can go and analyze the thread. What are the various parameters inside this logs? Which one we need to look into it? The thread state. So all these things we'll get into the detail about when we analyze the when we go for this session. But again, the idea here is to give you a preview of how are we going to deal about it. How we are going to get the session structured for a thread dump analysis. Okay. So this is all about troubleshooting the problem using the tools, getting the thread dumps, analyzing the thread dumps, and you will be able to comfortably do all these activities. Next is your client-side performance, right? This is again one very huge area. Though there are everything is optimized at the server end, right? You might still have a problem as an end user. When I say an end user, your load testing would be doing very good. All your response time would be within SLA. But when you're going to access it from the browser, right? None of our load testing tools is going to mimic your browser behavior unless you're going to use the true client protocols or Selenium kind of scripts to measure the response time. You will not identify problems at the browser level. But as an end user, right, you using Amazon.com at your home, right? So you won't worry about whether the problem is there at server or network or database or browser. You want the application to be faster. If there's going to be a problem with your client side, you're going to get impacted, right? So the client side performance analysis is going to be very, very important for you to give a very good, rich experience to your end user. And we are going to go through a lot of tools as well for this. We are going to go through various recommendations. Recommendation, I would say, simple example, right? If you are in India and you're going to access the page, you can have the servers in India itself rather than you are having a server in your US or UK. Your non-HTML files, right? Your JavaScripts or style sheet, it no need to get rendered from your US or UK. It can be rendered locally itself. So looking into this, all this call, where it is getting downloaded, whether the caching is handled properly. I'm going from a page 1 to page 2. The resources should be properly cached so that it is going to be fast. So we're going to look into various recommendations which we can give to developer. And for this, I think toolings are very simple. You can just look into your developer tools. There are good tools available within the developer Chrome itself, right? Say for example, you have something called Lighthouse. You can minimal level. What you can do is you can look into the F12 function, right? You would have seen it a lot of times when you are going to create a script. So developer tool itself will give you a lot of insight. It won't give you insight. It will give you a lot of data for you to understand a problem. You can just go click it, look into the headers, right? A simple thing is headers. You can look into whether the proper caching is followed or not. So if you see here, the cache control is there. It is kept for maximum age, which is good, right? Because it no need to go to the server again to get the resource, and it is compressed. So content is encoded with the gzip. Okay, so these are the few things which you, as an engineer, you can look into each of the resource. When you see the slowness in your page, you would be able to do all these things, which I will explain it in a proper way, right? How are you going to go about it? Which tool you are going to use it? How are we going to look into the resources? What recommendation we can give it? So all these things are going to be part of your client-side optimization. There is something called Audit, right? Lighthouse plugin that comes along with your browser itself. You can just quickly go and generate a report which will tell you what are the areas you can improve it. Right. So this is one of the tools which we'll also get into the detail. There is also one more thing is how we can even automate the client side performance, right? Because typically, if you see automation testers, they will create Selenium scripts. So even instead we going and get this metrics manually, we can also rely on the Selenium scripts. When they're going to run it, we can get the metrics out of it. So we'll also look into those a few things, how we can insert few commands in a Selenium script, right? I'll also walk you through these things. I'll also walk you through the APIs that is available within the browser. There is something called navigation API, resource API, with which you will be able to get these timings. So performance timing for navigation start, end. So all these things you can get it from a automation script, from a Selenium script. That is also something we are observing commonly in the today's market. So this is about the Lighthouse report, right? When you run it for this page, it will give you a couple of metrics. It will also give you the recommendations, right? We'll get into detail about what is the recommendation, what is all about. So when you get into the client-side performance engineering session, and as I said, right, the metrics. I'll also help you understand or how to get these metrics in through APIs. So it's all about making the best use of the developer tools rather than using the fancy commercial tools. We'll be able to get a lot of metrics from the browser itself. And from an engineering perspective, we'll use this data to provide the recommendation. Okay, so that's about the client-side performance engineering. We'll get into the details about all these aspects when we get into that particular session. And next we'll go on to the, so now we have done with the profilings, we have done with the client side engineering. Next is the monitoring strategy, right? You as an engineer, it's very, very important for you to set up right monitors. You know architecture better. You have gone through design phase. You know what are the components are available. For you to analyze during a load test or even in production, right? Unless you have right monitors, you have right configuration set for this monitor, you will not get the data, which means you will not be able to analyze it if there's a problem. So defining a monitoring strategy both for your performance environment and for production environment is very important. So you as an engineer, you have to do it, and we will see how are we going to define a monitoring strategy. And then we'll also look into the JConsole, how we are going to hook into a JVM and get this data for monitoring. We'll also get into detail about how are we going to use the Linux monitoring tools, right, like NMONs, VM stats, IO stats. So we'll have a practical session on connecting to a Linux machine, accessing the bits and executing those to we'll do a similar exercise what you're doing in Windows, right, to see how these Linux monitoring is going to work. And I'll also to make our simple job simple, right, with the open sourcing options available, you don't need to even enter into Linux type commands. There are very simple ways to do it. There is something called Telegraph, InfluxDB, Grafana kind of a setup where once you configure the Telegraph, all the data from your Linux service, like your CPU, memory, your network data, all these data can be pulled out from Linux box, and it can be sent to a dashboard or sent to a database where it will be easy for you to visualize it. So you don't need to go to each of your Linux box, type your commands like top or meminfo. Instead of struggling through all these various routes, we can also do this pretty simple. We know anyway Dynatrace or Appdynamics is also going to do a similar job, but in most of the organization, maybe a bigger organization might not have the flexibility of using Appdynamics or Dynatrace, right? So for you to look into it from an UI, we can also propose as an engineer to set up these right tools, open source tools. So we'll also in the session we will configure the Telegraph, take the data out of your Linux machines and put it in the InfluxDB, and we will visualize it in the Grafana kind of a database. So idea is to you as a engineer, how are you going to strategize your monitoring aspect? How are you going to monitor your Linux boxes? What are the various performance counters? And we also go into the network monitoring tool, which is very important. And we will get an hands-on on the Telegraph InfluxDB Grafana app as well. Okay. Next is the database aspect, which is again, that is a one separate tier, right? When we talked about all the JVMs and client side performance and the monitoring aspect, database performance is going to be again a very big topic. So earlier it is used to be only Oracle. Now with the NoSQL database picking up, we also wanted to see how are we going to monitor the NoSQL database like MongoDB or Elasticsearch. We'll get into basics about Oracle, how Oracle handles your process and memory. And we'll also get into detail about your analyzing your database reports like your AWR reports. And how are you going to set up your clustering when it comes to performance? Again, clustering is very important. Your recovery, when something goes wrong with a node, how the database is going to handle the load and the request. So as a performance engineer, our role is to also monitor and see how these clusterings are done to meet the various requirements, right? So we'll go through the concept of clustering, we'll go through the concept of the recovery strategy, monitoring of Oracle, MongoDB, Elasticsearch database, okay, as part of the session 9, okay. And then, now, see, so far, right, I think what we are seeing is traditional way of doing it, right? We are going to profile the Java applications, we are going to find problems, taking dumps, monitoring the database, client-side performance. One more important aspect in today's, at least DevOps world or cloud world, right? Resiliency is also is part of the performance engineering. Resiliency is nothing but when something goes wrong, still how my users are not going to get impacted. So I might have a CPU problem. I still might have a memory leaks. I can still have a server crash because whatever you optimize it, there are still going to be a problem, right? As a business user, how resilient is my systems are going to be? For that, resiliency strategy is going to be important. We will go through the concepts of how Netflix has designed a chaos monkey, right? A monkey plugging wires of different servers and creating various problems. How my application is going to behave. So that's a concept of resiliency. We will go through how resiliency is done, why it is important. We'll go over a couple of scenarios where in a particular node, the CPU is more, how it is handled. You would have heard about the auto scaling, load balancing aspect, right? So all these things will come into picture. The cloud, yes, auto scaling is there. It can easily spin up multiple machines, even if there's a problem with a particular server, right? But how are we going to test it? Doing that auto scaling, how is my performance is going to impact it? All these things are going to be part of my resiliency engineering. Okay, this particular topic is going to talk about detail about what would be our approach for a particular architecture. How am I going to define my resiliency strategy? Resiliencies could be at a database level. It could be at the server level, right? So we will be looking over the all the details in the particular session. And then I'll go over the production monitoring. I talked about SDLC cycle, right? If you clearly look into my sessions, I started in the beginning where I'm going to profile it. I'm going to find problem during the development stage. And then I'm going into the client side performance. And then it is more about my preparing my application for production, like doing resiliency engineering. And then now my app is ready. How am I going to define a strategy to monitor it properly in the production as well? I want to have right alerts set so that if it's a problem with my end user in production, how is my synthetic monitoring and real user monitoring is going to work? So all these things are going to be part of my production monitoring. Okay, and we are going to go over a couple of tools which are going to be used during a production monitoring. Okay, so we'll go over how Dynatrace AppDynamics is going to help in setting up these synthetic and real user monitoring. Okay, this is going to be more of a theoretical session because we'll not get into real production activities here, right? But we'll still talk about the concepts. We'll still talk about how we need to set up these synthetic monitoring. How can we reuse the Vuegen scripts? How we can reuse the JMeter scripts? How we can reuse the Selenium scripts? And what are the metrics we are going to look into the real user monitoring, which is going to help us in defining our workloads as well, right? So all these things we'll talk about in the this session. And okay, this is another big area, right? So far we have seen about web, but we know we all using mobile, right? Android mobile, iOS mobile. In India, it is most of us are using Android, right? In US, it is more of iOS. And when we say native app, right? When we are taking from Play Store or App Store, those are still apps, still programs that are going to get executed in your device, and there are going to be problem. You would have seen app crashing, app slowness, app eating battery, right? All these are again problems which has to be analyzed by a performance engineer when it comes to mobile. So we'll get into detail about how are we going to handle the mobile native app performance, what are tools we are going to use it, how are you going to monitor the Android or iOS. So this is a very deep dive session on mobile engineering, where we'll specifically dig into a Android aspect, concepts of CPU, memory, crashes, heap dump. All these things are applicable for mobile as well, because that is again a small piece of application which is running in your mobile hardware. So your mobile is a server. You're installing an app from a Play Store. It is going to consume CPU. It is going to consume memory. It is going to create problems. And we, as an engineer, have to analyze it, debug it, provide the recommendation. So this session is going to be completely on mobile engineering aspect. And then finally, we will end up with the DevOps and cloud as well, right? Because now everybody is talking about DevOps, everybody is talking about cloud. So even if you get into basics of all these things, what we have talked about, still there are going to be questions around DevOps or cloud wherever you're going to go, right? When you're going to attend an interview or whenever you're going to get into a project, they're still going to talk about DevOps or cloud because it's all very famous jargons nowadays, right? So we should all, at least as a performance engineer, we should know how are you going to set up this continuous testing, continuous monitoring. We'll probably set up few Jenkins job, connect to JMeter, and we'll also get into AWS way of monitoring it, right? So you talked about JConsole, JVisual VM to collect metrics. How can we do it in the cloud world? So if it is going to be Amazon cloud, how are you going to use CloudWatch to get these monitoring? We'll get hands-on into how to access the AWS console, how to configure CloudWatch, how to get metrics. So those hands-on session with the AWS cloud as well as on the DevOps. We're not going to go into a deep dive because this itself is a very huge topic. But with my whatever I have seen, we are going to get questions very often, at least about the basics of all these things. So we should know what is what. So for that level, we'll get into the details, concepts. We'll also show some practical way of creating jobs, running it from Jenkins, connecting to AWS, and then connecting to CloudWatch. And running few applications, monitoring it. So we'll do it in the this particular session. And then usually this non-functional requirement engineering strategy would be beginning of most of the engineering sessions, right? But I wanted to keep it at the last, just because one is it's completely theoretical. We don't want to go into theoretical in the start. And second is, once you know about all these basic components of heap, stack, heap dumps, client analysis, right? You would be able to define your strategy properly. You will be able to define your NFR properly. So I would rather say we'll go into get all the details about the engineering activity, and then when we now talk about the strategy, you yourself will be able to easily chart out all these things, right? You'll be able to easily understand what it is going to be there in the engineering strategy. If I'm going to talk about in the beginning, it's going to be more of a black box, which I don't want to do it. So that is how we are going to wrap up the session. So a series of session is going to be on the concepts of Java, profiling, using tools, creating problems, debugging it, fixing it, client-side performance, server-side performance, and then resiliency and mobile performance. And then we will end up, how are we going to draft the strategy? How are we going to look into NFRs? That is where we are going to end this batch. Yeah, so I'll probably stop here. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
This is Anil. So you talked about that thread of analysis. So I would like to understand, like, the thread means the users that we are usually used for running our scripts. Is that so, or it's something else?
Okay. The name thread is something relevant for most of the concept, right? In JMeter, they call V user as a thread because if you see script, right? Script is a code which is going to run in a JMeter. So for a JMeter context, that is a thread. But what we are going to look into is the application server threads, where you're going to enter Amazon.com and it is going to go and do a call to your backend server. There is going to be one thread that is going to be used in your application server, which is going to connect to your JVM. That thread is what we are going to deal about, not the load testing tool threads.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Prem.
Yes.
This is Kirti Kumar. You have mentioned about these 14 sessions, right? So, how long will be the each sessions?
Each session is planned for 1.5 hours, anywhere between 1 or 10 minutes to 1.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it is planned, and yeah, it is going. It will go up to probably 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. So yeah, it will be definitely minimum of 1 to 1.5 hours for each session. It will have a logical conclusion, so that it might be 1 hour 10 minutes or 1 hour 30 minutes. It might go over a little bit more than 1.5 hours. But each session will be planned in a way that it is logically started and logically ended.
Okay. Uh, okay. It will be in the weekdays only or what?
It will be mostly on weekdays, but once we finalize the enrollment rate, once people are enrolled, we'll also get your views, whichever every one of us feels which is correct, we'll go with that. Majority of that, they feel only weekdays, we'll go with only weekdays. If people say we can also do it over the Saturday, we'll also do it. So it is up to majority of us to, it's our preference. But initially, it is now planned for weekdays, 5 weekdays.
Okay. So all these training videos we will be getting right as part of the course.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
See,
Prem,
yeah.
yeah, Prem, these videos will be downloadable, right? We can download it, right?
I don't think you'll be able to download it, but you'll be able to, for sure, you'll have access to it continuously. I'll check it and get back to you, but it might not be downloadable, but you'll be able to access it over this server.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. But I'll get back to you. I'll probably send a message in the WhatsApp once I get that confirmation. But for sure, you get the video. For sure, you will be accessed over the server continuously as long as you wish to see it. Whether you will be able to download it or not, that part I'll update you in the WhatsApp group.
Why I'm asking because I have taken the course of true client scripting from Kumar Gupta sir. So that video is not downloadable. Only we can access it via net. So that is the question I'm asking.
Okay, then it will be same. Yeah, it is going to be pretty much same. You'll be able to access to our server.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
There's no timeline like only to this duration or this many months you can access it.
No. No. Whoever is going to get enrolled into the session, they will have access to the videos for whenever how much time ever you want. There's no time limit at all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hi Prem, will we get like these practical sessions like this heap dump and all this and thread dump and all this like practical things like that you are creating a memory issue thing and you're showing like how to take dumps and analyzing the dumps also, no? The practical session.
Correct. See, during a session, right? That's what I'm going to do. Explain you theoretical concepts, and I'll go over doing the practical things and so on from me. But you can also parallelly set up all these things in your laptop or probably in your desktop, and I can provide you all the tools where it can be downloaded. I can provide you this WAR file. I can give you the code, which you can put it in your machine. And if you wanted to do it parallelly, you can still do it. Or if you want to do it maybe after the session in the daytime, you can also do it. Yeah, that is how the session is structured.
Yeah, that is what I'm asking. When we open like this heap dump, there will be like multiple parameters will be like how we need to check where is the issue that we are going to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm saying right. We'll create problems. We'll create problems. We
And
will debug it.
how to analyzing the where
Yes. Yes. Complete end to end, right? You will look into the code which is creating a problem, not at the beginning. First, we will run it as a black box. We'll use a tool, suspect the problem, and then debug it. Find out the class or object which is having a problem. Go into the dumps, go into the thread dumps, find out the problem, and then take that and go into the code and look into it, fix it, and then rerun it, and then you will see how the tools are now showing a better results. So complete end-to-end picture, you'll get it. As a performance engineer, you'll get what you want. Even at the code level, as a developer, what he is going to do, that also you get it.
So Prem, last question. This side is Anil again. Sorry.
No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that I just need one favor from you. Maybe when the actual class will be started, can you please suggest to me like a step-by-step process, like how performing engineer has to be started? Like suppose I have generated the report in the HP Analyzer. Now I'm able to see like the response time is okay, but there is still this hit percent or throughput percent is not actually correlated properly. So from there, how I will start debugging and what are the steps basically I have to follow for initiating the performance engineering first step. So like this first step, I mean step by step process. Can you please help me at that point of time? I mean step by step, like how I will proceed and drill down in different servers with the help of different tools. So in this way.
Okay, it is more about how are we going about your troubleshooting problem, right? Where to look, when to look, where to look,
Correct.
where to start.
Suppose sir, we have three anti-based architecture, like we have a web app and DB, and we have a network as well. So where and how and what are the steps, what are the tools that we are going to use, I mean successively, to drill down for to narrow down any issue. So it's step by step structure, I mean ways to figure out my own way of getting these things. So means a basic structure way
Got it, I
I
got
would
it.
like to.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yes. So on the monitoring strategy, right? The monitoring strategy will cover these things.
Okay.
And Prem, one more thing. So you are covering couple of topics in each section. So if you give the additional topics which helpful to enhance our knowledge to do self study, that would be much helpful.
Okay, fine. So
Because it is highly impossible to cover each and everything in a 1.5 hour session. At least you can give some topics in each session. Like these are the additional things you can go through. So we can just Google it and enhance our knowledge. That would be very helpful for us.
sure. So whatever even I have done it for my own work or my knowledge, right? I'll probably share it. That should be a problem. Just noting it down.
Hi Anil, it's Aditya. Hello.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. Currently I'm working like all my life. I have worked on .NET environment only. So, are we going to use any .NET tools? Because I have seen all the tools regarding to the Java application, but I have worked only in .NET. So, is there any option you are going to provide?
Okay, this entire session it's pretty much going to be for Java. Sorry, your name? Yeah, your name, please.
Hi, this is Aditya.
Aditya. Okay, Aditya. Okay, so the concepts and the way things are analyzed are going to be pretty much common for Java or any other technology. But very specific to tools, I think we are going to stick to Java for this entire session, Aditya. Yeah, .NET will not be covered. If you have any specific expectation from .NET, right, let me know. But probably I will not be able to cover it for the session since at least I don't have much of exposure or experience to .NET, right? So it is not good to do it. So yeah, it is going to be completely for whatever topics we spoke about in this today's session, right? That is what we are going to cover. .NET is something we will not cover here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Prem, this is Subbu. So I have two questions. So
Yeah.
are we going to have this session for like 21 days? And do we have a time specification or a day specification of how long will it be? And then next question would be like, would we get the offline support, right? So if we complete the session in 1.5 hours, and after that, if you have any questions, would you be able to support maybe to answer some of the questions in the form of an email or something if you send? Would that support be available at least for those 21 days?
Okay. See, first question is the schedule wise. Yeah, it is going to be average of 1.5 hours for every day. Okay, and it is from today to it will go over for 15 days or 16 days to cover these topics. Okay. Total of 20 to 25 hours a day. That is how it is planned. So depending upon once the people are enrolled, depending upon their majority of preference, right? if you are going to include Saturday or not. Yeah, it will be 1.5 hours per day, and it will go over 15 to 18 days. That is going to be the session planning. Second, um, offline support during this 3 weeks wait will not be able to support in terms of troubleshooting it, in terms of setting up your own missions. That is going to be a little difficult for sure. But as other people asked, right, to provide additional information, say it could be deep dive into a particular area where I can share the couple of websites or the forums or the Stack Overflow forums and all those things I can do it, but supporting it offline, depending upon case by case, right? Certain things, yes, we can definitely help you. Um, but extensively, there won't be any support offline for you. See, in case if you wanted to access any of the missions, right, where you wanted to deploy this to, if you don't have a laptop or if you don't have a mission with you, if you want to use any of the lab mission, that is something we can also talk to Kumar and see how we can get access to that. And there will be a lab admin who can help you in installing these tools. Those support you will get it, but more into the extensive support of again explaining it, the concepts. Those might not be there during offline hours. But it is going to be case by case. Basic things which I can answer it very quickly, yes, we'll be able to support, but no extensive support during offline.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. If you still have any other questions, right, you can probably drop a message in the WhatsApp, or you can also convey that to Kumar Gupta as well. Any questions on the session durations or how it is going to be planned, the videos, download the questions around how we can download the videos. Those questions you can post the question to Mr. Kumar Gupta. And for enrollment, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, just a word here. Would you be the only person running this show for 3 weeks, or would there be someone also coming?
No, it's completely me doing the entire batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think we'll wind up the session. But if you still have any questions on any of the topics which you are going to cover, and you can message in the group. I'll try to answer. And for enrollments, please contact Mr. Kumar Gupta. So we are going to get the sessions, actual sessions, whatever we have talked about from today, right? We'll start doing it from tomorrow. Friday there will be a session, and followed by Monday. We'll let anyway Saturday, Sunday for you to set up your environment if you're really passionate about doing all these things, right? You can set up your own missions in the Saturday, Sunday, so that you will also start doing this and so on. And yeah, Friday next session will be tomorrow at the same time, 7 a.m. And any questions related to the enrollments, yeah, please contact Mr. Kumar. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your time. Yeah. Meet you all tomorrow then.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.